So we were here, right? Are you with me? Yes, you are. Now, what, when do we start getting really mesmerized by the stuff that we see is the level of biology. Okay? Do you agree? Like something like standing up and walking. It's really, really something, uh, a joy forever, right? Now, I will again speculate that it comes because of this loop, backwards loop. It's not just a feedback loop. We have feedback loops downstairs as well. It's a strange loop, to borrow Douglas Hofstadter's words. It's a strange loop, and the strangeness of this loop will be apparent maybe in a couple of minutes, or maybe never. But the strangeness goes to the upper layers as well. Our psychology may influence, well, basically, biology has this freedom of changing its rules. It's a very important freedom, changing how it is built. That also makes it computer science, right? Think of a program that can change its program. The possibilities are infinite, right? And then civilization can affect your psychology while being an emergent property of the sum of your psychologies. Do you understand the dynamics here? You make the culture that you are living in, and but you are also affected by the culture that you are producing backwards. Does it make sense? And art comes back and uh, affects civilization as well. So, in a way, we can imagine a tree below the ground is the something that we might never comprehend, like the fourth dimension. We can only see it in mathematically. We can understand it, but we haven't been evolved in four-dimensional world universe. That's why we cannot imagine fourth dimension, right? So maybe indeed that's the reason why people usually tend to go when they go to ultimate theory of reality, they use 11 dimension, 26 dimensions. There are good reasons for that. But you can imagine a tree, its roots that are not seen are downstairs somewhere. Then there is this physics. Then there are these branches and all the beauty. And the fruit is art. But yersen. Okay. It was a joke in Turkish. Sorry for that. And let's make this strange loop more apparent. Like, let's try to explain it by giving an example from your brain and how, in particular, how you process visual information. Basically, it comes through your retina, goes to LGN. What is LGN? Oh, sorry, why I didn't point at you at first. Lateral geniculate nucleus. Thank you very much. It's doing a linear process. It's doing something that it doesn't care what happened next. Okay, so it takes in the information, just like feed-forward neural networks. Takes in, sends it up, doesn't care what happened. Okay, but once it comes to V1, it does care. It gets affected from the information that was sent upwards because it goes, enters to this strange loop. You can see that it's not just one loop. That's just, it's not like just Krebs cycle, which is also a strange loop because there are loose ends that are connected to other metabolic activities, right? It's the whole metabolic network. There you go, another strange loop, right? So wherever you see richness, you should seek for a strange loop there. And visual system, visual processing, or consciousness is something very interesting. And it is a result of a strange loop. Another speculation, yes, but you should also read Douglas Hofstadter's I'm a Strange Loop. Okay? So let me show you how it works. I will show you 5 shapes, psychology test. Okay? First shape, second shape, third shape, fourth, and fifth. Does it make any sense to you? Those who haven't seen this before? Have you seen it before? Well, you are one of those rare people who look for the letters when I told you to look for shapes. Well, when you see the letters written in white, you will be unable to unsee them. But before, you couldn't see them, right? Uh, Something changed in the upper loop, and now you just cannot but see it. Do you understand the point? Yes? So, are we bag of chemicals?
Yes.
Yes, of course. So if I take your chemical stuff, put it in a bag, shake it, will it make a nice Doran?
Not necessarily, but
Yes.
if you try hard enough with a lot of times,
There is something extra there, right?
Maybe something might happen.
Yes.
Maybe you're lucky.
Well, my point is that no, we are not bag of chemicals. We are bags of chemicals. That's the difference. Uh, that's the difference because that's the way to build this strange loop. Because you need levels of organizations that are made possible by these bags of chemicals. Just look at the cell, a unit of life, and you will see bags inside bags, inside bags, inside bags, etc. Right? These baggy organization makes possible things that are improbable. So, like, you need something to be broken down chemically, right? If you leave it outside, it won't be happening anytime soon because the pH is not enough. Okay, but you have this lysosome. If I'm wrong, correct me, please. You take in that stuff. It mends. It comes together with the lysosome. That inside, it has a lower pH, I believe, much lower, which breaks it down for you. So you make something improbable possible because of the back of the lysosome, where you create a specific structure. Besides being low pH, it also enables things to react much more because it's inside a small bag. So a possibility of banging into each other is much higher. I thought that it is an original idea, but apparently there is a person who is studying it, and he is calling it Markov blanket. Okay, these things, and those who are interested in it, you should search for it. You had a question?
Do you use the same logic of reproduction to go up the level of the infrastructure of everything? From biology to psychology, there should be at least a brain, a few neurons to have a psychology. From psychology to civilization, there should be at least a few psychological entity to have a civilization. It's kind of
Yes. So the question is, do we need many actors of a certain level of organization to build the upper level of organization? Is that the question?
yes, like we need three entities to go to one upper
Okay.
level.
Do we need 3 entities? No, you need much more. You need like 10 to the 11, 12, or whatever. 10 to the 23 to go from chemistry to biology, right? Like molecules by themselves have some interactions, but the emergent properties that biology desperately needs, like pH. Okay, for example, you use pH in biology, right? Just a number, but pH is an emergent property coming out of 10 to the 23 molecules of water. Some of them has extra hydrogen, some of them has missing hydrogen, which results in a global pH. Am I right or wrong? You have to say something. You are the judges. Chemist? Yes? Yes. Okay. Uh, actually, we can skip this part very, very quickly. This is what I have been doing for 10 years. It's basically using this arrow that is quite straight. So you can just, as I mentioned, if you can solve Schrodinger equation, you can talk about chemical properties or material properties. And the problem with solving Schrodinger equation is that I will not explain you why, but you can read it later on. If you want to store the wave function of nitrogen atom, it was a final question in the previous course. It was oxygen, but it doesn't matter. You need 10 to the 72 terabytes just to store the wave function, not to calculate anything. And it's even undoable. Do you agree with me as a physicist? Yes. Yes. So you cannot solve it. You cannot store it to solve it, right? The all particles, if they are hard disks, cannot take up this information in. Well, what do? You use this nice theory, that's the functional theory. We use this theory to map this gigantic wave function into something that is dealable, and it works. Okay, it shrinks down to 10 megabytes, sometimes even smaller, and you can make calculations that are precise enough for prediction. And what we did, this is just me talking about myself, so it's boring, I know. But Carbon basically decided what is going to be next in the field of nanotechnology. It's allotropes. So the most popular one very recently is graphene, which opened the door for 2D materials. And what we thought was very simple, why don't we replace carbon with silicon? Everybody likes silicon, right? It's in the devices, etc. We realized that it's not really stable in the graphene-like planar configuration, but it can be made stable with buckling. So let me remind you, we are doing all this in a computer. Okay, so this is an exploration in a computational universe in search of a novel material that hasn't been synthesized or found in nature, right? Then basically this plot shows you that this material, if it is synthesized, will be stable, right? I will not tell you why. And it will have this nice property of electrons acting as if they are light particles, so-called massless Dirac fermions. Do you realize that electron normally that has a mass, particle that has a mass, inside this material it feels like or behaves as if it hasn't got a mass, right? So what you can derive from here, what we mentioned earlier, don't trust even the most physical quantities, they may change in different situations. Do you see the point? Even mass is an emergent property. Okay, so this is our paper, and it's in 2009 from this building. And this is, after 3 years, it was synthesized. Yes, it was synthesized not freestanding on a silver surface, but still it's out there, and it had a huge impact in the literature. Back in 2009, this is what you would get if you would Google silicene. Onu sileceğine bunu sil. Right. Like instead of erasing that, erase this. Now, if you Google it, you will find, and all this started with a exploration in computational universe. Do you see my point? And people even made as field effect transistors out of silicon, although they operate only for 10 minutes. Uh, those are in smaller captions. Okay, but it's still, I mean, something going forward. And it was 19th most cited paper in PRL back in these 5 years of span. Now, we come to the part where we ask this question. Not what is life, but where is life? Okay? We asked it before, what is life? We know more or less what is life, right? So back in the days when I was enjoying my time in this beautiful city doing postdoc, of course, not surfing at all. uh, it's a nice place. These places, natural places, that are nice places to think about these fundamental questions. And I realized that everything that I had interest in somehow meet at one point. Okay, and that point is the science of complexity. So basically, this course is about computational methods for material science, but that's the Trojan horse on to get the course in. Then it opens and it's all complexity. Do you understand the point? So I really recommend these 3 books to read, especially the middle one. Actually, no, not all of them. So, how many books so far? 3 books. 4th is I'm a Strange Loop and Harvard Lectures. Don't forget, okay? They will really click with this course if you read them, okay? And you can see the emerging science at the edge of order and chaos, etc. And we will go through this map of complexity. So I realized that there is a science called complexity science or complex systems, whatever it's called, that brings together uh, all my scientific heroes. So you can see it's a quite personal uh, course, okay? And we will go through many of these people, like we already mentioned von Neumann, we will mention Holland, we will mention Conway, Wolfram. We will cover most of the dynamical systems, Mandelbrot. Everybody is here and they are together. Uh, okay. So ultimately, if we think about uh, everything in terms of computation, we realize that uh, the ultimate force, like F equals ma, is a rule of physics, right? What is the deeper rule? Do you understand my point? Uh, well, ultimately, yes, the deepest rules are still can be considered physical rules, but really, the second law of thermodynamics, for example, is more fundamental to me, at least, than if F equals ma. Okay, because it's really, really purely logical. If you take atoms in a corner, how many possibilities do you have? Like 1, 2, 3, 4. If you can arrange them anywhere else, you have infinite possibilities. So no matter what are the rules, and we should of course take into account their interactions, the potential energy, whatever. But their dispersed version have more possibilities. Simply because of that, you will have a push towards disorder. So what I'm trying to say is that there is a probabilistic pressure towards disorder. Uh, okay, let's skip this. And but then why are we here? There has to be something that takes this disorder at the expense of creating even more disorder, even faster. It produces some order. Did you get this point? And to have that, we need some laws of order, fundamental laws of order, and here is one of them. You have A and B, these are chemicals, okay? A and B comes together and can create AB. And another variant is creating BA. What if this chemical catalyzes that one and that chemical catalyzes this one? This is a straightforward feedback loop, but in real chemical metabolic networks or in real chemical networks, or how they say, autocatalytic reaction sets. There are chemicals that produce chemicals that produce chemicals that produce chemicals, ultimately catalyzing the original reaction. Do you understand this point? Hence, although things are going towards disorder, you will keep having these copies of these chemicals, and once you have those chemicals available, then they will come together, and if they create something that can reproduce itself, that's how life starts, right? This is another speculation, but one of my favorite origins of life theory, autocatalytic reaction sets. Okay, and we are going to talk about Kaufman's ideas, epigenetics, and how he, by looking again only at the computational universe, he discovered that the types of the cells and the number of genes should have a logarithmic uh, relation. Of course, one can always criticize someone who is giving a log-log plot and saying that it's linear. Believe me, everything in log-log plot looks linear. Okay, but still it's something. And during the course, we will discuss it in a detail and we will understand what's going on here. You can see that from bacteria to man, they are in the same linear, well, jellyfish is out. But sponge, man, and bacteria, that's impressive, right? Okay, so again, where is life? So the ultimate, the last speculation of today's lecture is that life arises when chaos and order meet, when disorder and order meet, when you have these two powerful laws against each other clashing, and they create these beautiful structures. And uh, many people tried to formalize it. One of them is Chris Langton, who looked not only just to Rule 30, but all possible one-dimensional automatas, whereby you include also the second order interaction, third order, nth order, doesn't matter. And there is this lambda parameter that is used. And when you start from lambda very small, you get killed by a bus. Okay, you see? No life. Then this is where you are alive, but as one of the songs of Radiohead says, a job that kills you. You know, no surprises. This is more interesting job, okay? But you are still going to job, to work, home, work, home. You are happy, very exciting, but repeats.
What was
Hmm?
What was lambda?
What is lambda? Here, lambda is, by the way, I have a better lambda, believe me or not. I'm writing a paper on it. Hopefully, no. This lambda is okay. But I have a better lambda, which was inspired by giving this course previously. So, this lambda tells you the probability of having 1 in the next run. So if you take into account all possibilities of the upper layer, what is the probability of this one being 1? Okay? So he claims that when lambda is 0.5, when it's near to it, at that point, then you would reach the maximum transient. You can see that it never repeats. Very interesting. So let me make my point. You have fixed point, limit cycle, complex behavior, or chaos. So basically you have static death or dynamic death, and when these two deaths meet, you have life out of it. Okay? And there is actually, most of the systems are self-organized to this critical point where you have maximum entropy, maximum information processing. Actually, maximum entropy is bad. It's the chaotic death. But anyways, maximum aliveness.
Maximum entropy production.
Production, wow.
Right?
Okay, we should speak about it a lot. Maybe, yes. Yes. Very good. Anyway, and this is the book that How Nature Works. Do you remember that book? That's where the person explains how he accounts for earthquakes, mass extinctions, stock markets, etc. And we are going to deal with this one as well. So, okay, how nature works. Now, this is our message from the second part of the talk. There are fundamental laws of disorder, fundamental laws of order. Life is self-organized at the edge of disorder. Okay? Now, let's make a philosophy out of this. Remember, all here is good. Nothing is evil here. Okay? So, good order, good disorder. One of them, there are always these two choices. Safer choice, more possibilities. Like knowledge, imagination. Okay? What I'm trying to convey here is the way to reach this maximum efficiency of being alive is being in between, like having as much knowledge as possible, but while not restricting imagination. Like if you read all the books, it might restrict your imagination. You might not write a new book. Do you understand my point? And what is Einstein's word? Imagination is more important than knowledge. That's something. That's okay. This is my ultimate speculation: is that the right one is slightly, more safer. Although this says it's safer, if you want to keep yourself alive in maximum entropy production state, then you should take into account this one. Saving, investing, doesn't make sense. Saving, safe, it's underneath your pillow, or investing, making it more, at a risk of losing, of course. Security, trust. We are going to look at this algorithm, tit for tat algorithm, that would, if you play together, okay, do we have like 10 more minutes? Yes? It's 5:30, right? Let me make it more clear, because my time will run out in 2 minutes. Do you have 10 more minutes? So there was, and we are going to look at this paper where they make a tournament of algorithms, and the game is called like evolutionary game theory. That's the subject. So we play with each other. I give 5, you give 5, we both take 5. I give 5, you give 7, we both take 6. So in a way, I defected you. You were cooperative, I was uncooperative. I won, but only for a moment, because you know that I'm a 5 giver. Do you understand? The next time you will going to give me 1, depending on the algorithm that you have. And the algorithm that is unbeatable so far is tit for tat algorithm. It gives you whatever you gave the last time. Do you understand? But what it should give at the first time, it gives 10, the maximum of positiveness. So that kind of supports my point of being slightly on the side with more possibilities. Do you understand my point? Being on the side of trusting people rather than securing yourself from them. Unity, diversity makes sense. Linear, nonlinear makes sense. We can speak an hour about it. Conservative, liberal, getting into too much politics. But it's really not a political issue. Notice that usually we are these liberals in the universities, right? Notice that I'm talking about importance of being conservative as well. Do you understand my point? If you are ultra liberal, you lose your identity at some point. You become this entity in computational universe, but it's better when you are a person eating kebab and discussing about life, etc. That's better. Do you understand my point? And ultimately, rational versus moral. This has to do with being linear and nonlinear. So I believe we have 2 hemispheres for a reason in our brains. One takes care of linear stuff, and another one takes care of nonlinear stuff. Uh, like you might not want to spend tax money to poor people if you are just too strict, too linear. Do you understand my point? Like, they should make more money or whatever. Like, strict thinking. Uh, if you didn't get the right answer, you deserve 0 points. Linear thinking. Do you understand my point? Etc. What happened to this?
Conservative.
I don't know.